masters.
Good day to you, partner. I'm Guy, and I can already tell that I'll be your best friend in this forsaken cave.
Hey guys, Wheat Solo here, aka the Skeleton King. So this will be the last budget Poison Nova I make. I promise. I have nothing left. I have nothing left to do with budget Poison Nova, except for one thing we'll get to later on in the video. The reason I wanted to make one more video about budget Poison was to either illustrate or prove a few points. First, I am using Quick Cast. Forgive me, this is my first day switching to Quick Cast, and I do like it overall for Poison. Based on my experience in beta, I thought it was great for Scallymancer, where you're, cycling through 3 curses or 2 curses and warping. But for DP, it was very awkward, because for DP, I always felt like I wanted to cast my curses as quickly as possible. And there is an issue with Quick Cast and spamming cast. Like, you have to have a pause. And if you don't pause, you're going to cast your left click spell, and it sucks. And there's no way around it. Like, there's no way to not randomly Blood Warp or Poison Nova when you don't want to. But I will stay with this. One of the other things, I finally put the DPS counter on. Somebody asked a little while ago to make a vid with the DPS counter on, and I just never thought about it. But I was like, yeah, sure. But it's just a new mechanic that I just keep forgetting about. But it's like, yeah, there it is. You can look at it down there by my health globe. It's kind of cool. I'll run it every time I remember from now on. Okay, so the final discussions about budget Poison Nova, or even a bit of in-game Poison Nova. First, max block. Someone in my video said there was no reason for a Poison Necro not to run max block. There are some good points. So what are the good points about max block for a Poison Necro? Okay, you get 2 health per Vite point. That's pretty low. But you have to understand that running max block, depending on your gear, is probably going to cost you about 170 points. And that's pretty liberal. Maybe a little more. That's good enough. 170. That's 340 health, which is not a small deal. Okay, and what are the other good things? Well, you are just safer. You will probably die less even in-game. Okay, now what are the problems? The biggest drawback that you'll notice without having a deeper understanding of ARPGs is that you'll be blocking attacks that you don't want to block, and that'll slow down all of your gameplay. It's very frustrating in any map with a lot of ranged enemies that attack quick, like Quill Rats, and I don't want to block most Quill Rat attacks. Like, if they're Aura'd or Champs, like, yeah, man, I'll block it, baby. But if not, I'm just wasting my time blocking an attack that's barely going to chip my bone armor. It's obnoxious, and it gets quite annoying actually later on, which is why I don't like running max block as I progress in the in-game, if it wasn't for the second problem. Max block slows your gameplay down. There is no way to argue that. Even running 86 FBR, you will often be casting a spell and then block. And so that means it's even more than the 9 or 8 or 10 frames, depending on your FBR, that it takes to block it, because you also already spent a few frames casting a spell that will now no longer have an effect. Especially Blood Warp, that can be irritating because it can actually cause you to die when the block is over. So it's kind of weird. But there's another big thing about it. The point of Poison is to consistently and rapidly, in rapid succession, kill enemies. Why is that so important for the gameplay? It's because with life after each kill and Blood Warp costing health, the most defensive way to play the build is to continuously progress forward and constantly be killing enemies to benefit from life after each kill. Max block makes that part of the build worse. So it literally takes something the build does good and detracts from it. So I don't want to hear anyone ever say in my channel that max block is the only viable option. Is it better budget? I might even give you that. I went max block budget, but I was running a Gargoyle's Bite originally. But even when I switched off of it, I kept it for a bit. It's fine. It's okay. But for in-game, let's call it a preference, but it's definitely a worse option overall. We're not even talking about the corruptions you need to make it work and that you're probably sacrificing from somewhere else, but let's just move past that. Okay, so now we go to the full Trangs dilemma. First, I want to address whether full Trangs can do ROT3. It clearly can. I thought it would have a tough time hitting those numbers, but I kind of didn't incorporate how much the buff to large charms would do for Poison Nova. It's a huge buff. A huge, huge, huge buff. But there is a problem with large charms, and that is overall the stats are worse. Now, I actually like balanced large charms because you get 16% FHR, but they're actually worse than vital large charms. Let's just assume you're min-maxing, right? You're getting 20 from a small charm, 45 from a grand charm. Life. That's 65 total. But you can get 235 large charms, so that's 70. Of course, you're losing out on res either way. But if we go the balance route, you're getting 12 plus 5 from a grand and a small charm, and then you're only getting 16 from large charms. So technically, if you're min-maxing your character and you're going to run large charms, an assortment of large charms, grand charms, and small charms, I actually suggest going vital large charms and getting balance grand charms and small charms. Now, there is an issue. I think overall the demand for balance small and grand is probably higher, / it's harder to find, but that would be the min-max. And then there's one last thing I did with this character, and I actually went for more energy. I didn't just go max Vita. I did that at first, and that was still better. But for this video, I went a little bit into Vita, and then a lot of energy. Now, the idea behind this is that Bone Armor absorbs a shit ton of damage based on energy scaling. And there's one important thing to note. Never let it fall off because you will probably just evaporate. But the second thing is this. If you can get max res to be above 80 for all your skills, you can likely avoid putting any points into Vita and actually have the smoothest Poison Nova you'll ever experience in your life. So anyways, it's the same gear, guys. I promise. Skelly King out. GG.
Come play with us. Come play with us, Daddy.